Yeah, that ends the question we got during the registration we had yesterday. So I'm going to read some questions here from the chat. This question is from Kay. How do we ensure we receive support when we file complaint in the rental fee? I reached out through email weeks ago and I was only endorsed to other department and never got a response.
Saan niya final? Where was the complaint filed? Which department? Was it with DTI, FTEB mediation, consumer care?
Consumer care po.
Consumer care, hindi na action na ng consumer care?
Correct. It was endorsed to another person.
Oh, endorsed to, must have been endorsed to Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau mediation. Werlene, please act on it.
Thank you.
Ano pong pangalan ng complainant?
Calixto is the surname, Kay is the first name.
Sige po, pakilagay na lang dito sa chat group so we can act on it accordingly. Thank you. Werlene. Thea, I will read the question from Joseph Ranola so we can make this faster. In a contract for residential commercial lease, there is the practice of lessors requiring lessees to issue PDCs or post-dated checks. Are post-dated checks issued covering the period during the community quarantine to be considered as payments which may no longer be refunded? We mentioned this earlier, and the answer to this is, kung meron po kayong, if you issued post-dated checks and you know that you have the post-dated checks in the hands of the lessor, please advise them to not deposit the checks. If you fail to advise them, and the checks are deposited, the checks are dishonored for whatever reason, you can always use this as a defense if the lessor sues you for bouncing checks for BP22. If not, you can always talk to them and make arrangements for the replacement of the dishonored check.
I think DOH was not included in the membership as represented.
Lima lang daw.
This is very important to us.
5,000 yung hinihingi.
Economic factors.
Can somebody mute, please?
You may proceed po.
Okay. With Section 7 of MC 2029 from Joseph Ranola of DTI 5, Region 5, does this mean that DTI cannot motu proprio initiate a filing of administrative cases against an alleged lessor or violator, or that all the DTI have to do upon determination of a prima facie violence is to endorse to the Department of Justice? Hindi po all cases, administrative, civil, or criminal, may be initiated by either party. For administrative cases, it may be filed with the DTI, Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau. Civil cases will be filed before the regular courts, and criminal cases may be filed before the Public Prosecutor's Office under the Department of Justice. But of course, yung administrative case, this may be filed with the DTI FTEB, pero hindi po siya dire-diretso agad sa adjudication, because there may be cases or instances where we can resolve the issues within the level of the mediation division.
Thank you, Yusek. Now, there's another question from Justine Amit. How should be the treatment with a security deposit in case of determination, especially when the contract mentions that it will be automatically forfeited in case of determination? Can offsetting be applied instead? What if the lessor is very inflexible?
So that assumes existence of a contract, Attorney Mel.
Yes po. But
okay, please answer.
But offsetting is not covered by the MCs. So the MC simply grants the 30-day grace period, the 6-month installment period, and the concession of total or partial waiver voluntarily on the part of the lessors.
Bottom line, everything can be negotiated. Lahat naman po pwedeng pag-usapan. So you can talk to the lessor if you want additional concessions, and if you feel that you really cannot pay or cannot cover the rental payments that have become due, and the lessor is not open to any negotiation, you may come to us and we can help you mediate with the lessor. For a question from Lilibeth Chavez, can security deposit on rental fees be refunded if lessor and lessee decide to terminate the lease contract? Ito ba yung question mo kanina, Attorney Mel?
Yes po. Pero yung
Similar.
payments made before March 17 shall not be refunded.
Okay. Payments made before the ECQ.
Yes po.
Okay.
March 17. So, what are the other questions here in the chat box?
If the remaining contract term is less than 6 months, amortization will still be minimum of 6 months, question mark.
Why I cannot read the questions
Yes.
here.
Ito, from my town, Nori De Leon, if the remaining contract term is less than 6 months, amortization will still be a minimum of 6 months. Opo, the memorandum circular will apply. You may request for, if you are the lessor, you may request for additional security to make sure that the lessee will be able to pay despite termination of the contract. You may ask for post-dated checks or whatever arrangement may be made between the parties. But yes, the 6-month period will remain. How do we, from Kay, how do we ensure to receive support when we file a complaint? Okay.
And already answered, you said.
For residential rents from Galaxy Note 8, I'm not occupying the space since the lockdown because I went back home already. Which month should I pay? Or am I required to pay those months that I did not occupy the space?
Yusek, if I may answer. If
Okay.
they have a contract, if there is an existing contract between the lessor and the lessee, then that the terms and conditions of the contract will govern. So it doesn't, the memorandum circular doesn't say that if you are not in that leased premises, you will no longer pay your rents. But still, you can request a concession or consideration from your lessor, because the MC merely says that payments due during the quarantine will be deferred, and you're given a 30-day grace period within which to pay.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Mel. From Vera Rosario. Regarding the 6-month installment for closed businesses, is the lessor liable if they force us to pay in full after the community quarantine? And by after the community quarantine, does this mean after MGCQ or just the MECQ? The 6-month installment period provided by the MC is mandatory. So yes, the lessor will be liable if they force you to pay in full after the 30-day grace period. After the community quarantine means until GCQ or the general community quarantine. By Justine Amit, nabasa mo na ba to? If our existing contract has accelerated rental provision and we would like to terminate the contract given the current conditions and restrictions, can this provision still be enforced by the lessor?
You said they want to, lessee wants to pre-terminate the contract. If there is a provision in the contract, if there is a provision in the contract that allows pre-termination, that then they may they may pre-terminate the contract. The other questions are almost similar to the previous questions you said.
Okay. So any participant may just post their questions, please. If there is none, sige, I give it back to Thea.
Thea, are you in now?
Hi, I'm back.
Okay, she's back, you said.
Yeah, so we're done with the questions. Anyone from the audience can ask their questions now.
Hello?
Yes,
Oh,
kindly.
Yes, ma'am. Opo, tanong ko lang po yung regarding this accelerated rental kasi for some lessors, they have that provision in their contracts, no? Given na if ever na we have to close given the current conditions, are we still bounded or is that particular provision enforceable? That we have to pay until the end of the contract, the rental.
So you have an existing contract po?
Yes, opo. And then we have a provision po na we have to pay, if ever we pre-terminate, we have to pay ho until end of the contract, the rental fee until end of the contract.
We have remaining 1 year pa.
Opo, and then we still have remaining 2 years. But given the current conditions po kasi, we are not allowed to operate our business type. Kasi we have like in. And then we're not allowed to operate given the current given the current
Yes. Okay. So according to you, you have an existing contract. So again, we go back to the terms and conditions of the contracts. And under the memorandum circular, payments due during the 3 community quarantines, as mentioned, are merely deferred. And you are given grace period and the 6-month installment period within which to pay. Pero hindi ho totally na hindi kayo magbabayad. Because the terms and conditions of the contract are or is the law between the parties. So yun na po kasi yung napag-agreehan nyo
But
even
ma'am,
before the quarantine.
regarding po this accelerated rental na, di ba yung accelerated rental, parang we are obliged to pay until end of our contract just in case we pre-terminate. Like let's say the end of our contract will be on June 2022. Given that we will pre-terminate the contract, we will are we like obliged or is that particular provision will be enforceable?
Oo nga po, kasi nga po, sabi nga po natin, nire-respeto rin naman natin yung terms and conditions of the contract. So yung concession po na mabibigay ng lessor sa inyo, yun nga po yung pwedeng i-defer yung payment nyo, pwedeng i-amortize nyo in 6 months yung accumulated rents nyo, and pwede rin silang magbigay ng concession sa inyo, either total waiver of rents, partial, extension of the period of the contract, ganun po. Kasi anything na hindi po provided for by the memorandum circular, hindi po masasakop yung sinasabi natin na accelerated, what's that? Accelerated rental?
Rental, yes.
Opo. Nasagot po ba natin? So, Thea, have other questions?
thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Anyone?
Hello, question po.
Yes, kindly
Yes.
state your name po to be acknowledged.
Yeah. My name is Rick Jun Bolocon. Bali po sa salon industry kami. Yung salon namin nasa Ayala Malls, Marikina. Question lang po, kasi takot kami di ba, haircut lang po tayo ngayon. So ngayon, ang pinapabayaran sa amin ni Ayala is 50%. Sa totoo lang, hindi po talaga kaya. Hindi talaga kaya, kahit haircut lang. So parang ayaw pumayag na Ayala na babaan pa yung renta. Kahit mag-close kami, same pa rin. Magbabayad pa rin kami ng renta. So ang question ko po, kailan po kaya magbibigay ng bagong guideline si DTI? Kasi kaya naman naming bayaran kapag may mga manicure pedicure, may mga yung rebond and all. Kaso, ang nakikita ko sa ibang salon, pwede na silang maganon. May hair color na, tapos wala nang uhuli. It's unfair lang na yung mga nasa mall, kami, hindi namin nagagawa yun kasi nga natakot kami, baka magbayad pa kami ng malaki. We find it unfair lang. Yun lang.
Nakalagay po sa Memorandum Circular 20-33, yung other services, other personal care services will be allowed in MGCQ area. So if we transition today to MGCQ or tomorrow, allowed na po other services. On the matter of other salons operating and providing these services despite the prohibition, in the National Capital Region po, bawal pa po talaga siya. And we have law enforcers and the Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau doing the rounds and closing them down. So baka po meron kaming hindi nakikita, salons and other establishments providing personal care services, please let us know. So we will be able to take action on them. Thank you. Yung sa rental po yung sa rental ninyo with Ayala, if you need the assistance of DTI in negotiating the terms of the lease with them, please let us know also. We'll help you with Ayala.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. That would be all.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Yes.
Kindly state your name po.
Yes, this is Mitch Dumlao. May question lang po ako because if, for example, the lessor grants discounts, which is above and beyond the installment payment, can we request the tenant to pay in full instead of the deferred payment, given that we're already giving big discounts?
It may be granted po in the alternative depending on the capacity of the tenant. Kung kaya niya na po yung discount na binigay ninyo, pwede na natin. Bottom line of all this is how you negotiate or how you talk to the parties, because we are in a community quarantine. The country is in a crisis, so bayanihan po tayong lahat. We understand how all this affects businesses. We understand how all this affects individual persons. So kung pwede po, bayanihan na lang tayo. You can always discuss it with them. Kung kaya po nila, why not? Nothing prevents you from doing that, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more question from the audience po? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good morning. I'm Jocelyn Sapina. I'm working with a travel agency. Our office is not located in a mall or what you consider commercial spaces. But since the quarantine, tourism services has not been allowed to operate. Can we require our tenant to waive the rent during this period?
Sorry, hindi ko narinig. Ano po? Paki-ulit, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. I'm working for a travel agency. our office is not located in a mall or what you have classified as commercial space. We have been closed since the ECQ, and until the GCQ, we are not allowed to offer tourism services. So can we require our lessor to waive the rent during this period?
No waiver po. The government cannot intervene and request for waivers from lessors because for all intents and purposes, the property was occupied. So hindi po natin kaya na i-demand from the lessors to waive payment, but what we can give is only the concession of the 30-day grace period and the extension of monthly amortizations.
So even if, let's say, you said that it is occupied. So even if there is no operation, it is still considered occupied?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mga hungog mo.
Thank you. Yusek, there is a clarification sa question a while ago. The question of Mr. Justin Amit. Yung clarification niya daw, if the provision for pre-termination will still be enforceable, example, payment of the unexpired rental period, will this be enforceable even if the reason for the pre-termination is due to the effects of COVID in the finances of the lessee?
Yes, Attorney Mel, I understand, mentioned this earlier. We respect the provisions of the contract. So any provision on pre-termination will still apply. The contract is valid and effective despite the existence of the community quarantine, and government may only give concessions as to the grace period and extension of monthly payments to 6 months.
Thank you, Yusek. It's already 11:46, so perhaps we can entertain 3 more questions before we close the session. Anyone from the audience po?
Good morning.
Yes, good morning po.
Jerry Garcia. My name is...
Yes, Jerry.
Yeah. Ang question ko lang, if my tenant is a travel agency, so close pa sila hanggang ngayon. So kung example, 1 year sila close, 1 year sila hindi magbabayad. Ganun ho ba yun?
Ang coverage po natin, yung general community quarantine hanggang GCQ po.
Pero until now, travel agency po kasi sila eh. So close pa rin sila until today.
Travel agencies are allowed to operate naman po. Hindi naman sila bawal, pero hindi pa, they can accept of course customers or bookings.
Okay.
All offices po in the MECQ areas were already allowed 50% operation under the law, under the memorandum circulars also issued by the department. Skeletal workforce po for all offices.
Okay. May isa pa ako kasi tenant, spa naman po siya eh.
Opo.
So sa ngayon bawal po sila.
Opo. In the National Capital Region, sir, but in areas under MGCQ, allowed na po sila.
Nasa NCR po kami. So kung close po sila, example until December close po sila. Hindi namin sila pwede singilin sa ngayon.
Ano po, yung extension natin, kasi ang covered po nitong period na to, contemplated, is the GCQ lifting and transitioning to MGCQ on July 1st or June 30. So pagka na-extend po, in case the National Capital Region extends into GCQ areas, we will have to come up with new guidelines. We'll take the direction from the IETF through Secretary Lopez, and we will let you know right away, sir. We understand hindi po kaya ng business to cover rental payments without operating until the end of the year. So we will issue new guidelines on this.
Okay. Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Thank you,
Hi, good
Sir.
morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is Kylie from Bloodcorp. We're one of the landlords here in Makati. Apparently, all bar operations are not yet allowed to open during GCQ. And what I understand with what we discussed during this webinar was the extension of the Memorandum Circular 20-24, if I'm not mistaken. 20-24 will be the extension for the deferred the deferred rental with the 6 months deferral. The start of the 30 days grace period will be from the lifting of GCQ, right? I just want to clarify that.
Yes, yes. That's Memorandum Circular 20-31 and Memorandum Circular 20-12. These are the ones that were published. We were not able to publish 20-29, so you may disregard, please. The start of the 30-day grace period is on the day after the lifting of the general community quarantine, transitioning into MGCQ.
Okay, that's noted. But in any case of that, ma'am, I would just like to ask, what if one of our landlords told us that they deposited the check during June 15? Because it's already general community quarantine here in Makati. But they still deposited and they insist to deposit the check for June 15 due date. Can we ask them to refund that?
The memorandum circular specifically says that no refund. The lessor is not obliged to make any refund on payments made. If the check was good, so payment is already made to the lessor effectively. Hindi na po niya yun pwede hindi niya na kailangan i-refund. But you can always ask for additional concessions from them.
Okay. So if ever, ma'am, kasi we asked them to hold the May rental kasi that's still part of the MECQ or Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine. Can we ask them to return the PDC to us and then scattered it into 6 months for us to pay it on a 6 months deferral? Are we allowed to do that? Okay.
Yes, Kylie, you can do that. In case you find it difficult to discuss this with a lessor, please come to us. We will assist you.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kylie. We will entertain one last question, and then if you still have further questions, you can email them to consumercare@dti.gov.ph. So one more question po.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Panganiban.
Hello, Ms. Sharon. Yes, please.
It's Cheryl. I just wanted to ask because we are landlord. We have a tenant. Her contract is ending this June, end of this month. And during the ECQ, they haven't paid us. And as we speak, we were trying to communicate with them so that they will be paying, of course, for the ECQ, GCQ period. However, they're not communicating with us. So will we have the right, if we choose to terminate their, completely discontinue with them and ask them to vacate the premises?
If the contract ended already, yes. And then for unpaid, whatever unpaid rentals, you may apply the security, the deposit, or the down payment made.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much. That would be all.
Yes, thank
Appreciate
you.
the webinar, Ms. Yusek Ruth.
Thank you.
All right. So for further questions, please email them to consumercare@dti.gov.ph. And so this brings us to the end of our discussion on concession on residential and commercial rent. Thank you so much, Attorney Marimel Porciuncula, CPAB OIC Director, Ms. Werlene Reyes, FTEB Division Chief for Mediation, and of course, Undersecretary Ruth D. Castelo. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to have you with us today, Yusek.
Okay, thank you very much, Thea. Thank you,
Yes.
everyone, for
Thank you, Yusek.
Thank you for participating. If you have any more questions, especially the audience, the private sector, if your businesses are affected, please feel free to come to us for any assistance that we can provide. Also, for businesses who need financial assistance, we have the Small Business Corporation that you can visit. It's in the website, SB Corp or Small Business Corporation, so that you can avail of whatever financial assistance is available. For all those, again, for any question, please come to us. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga sa inyo.
To give us the closing remarks, may I call on the Assistant Secretary of the Consumer Protection Group, ASEC Anne Claire Cabotchan. ASEC. I think ASEC is not with us today. Perhaps Yusek Ruth, you can give us the closing remarks po.
Yes, I already said.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone. We would like to be of more assistance to you. Please feel free to come to us, consumercare@dti.gov.ph, or through the CPAB email address or the FTEB email address. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga. Until the next webinar, I understand our next topics would be refunds. Refund or for events made, for payments made for events affected by the public health emergency. And then dine-in protocols will be next. Thank you very much.
Thank you po. See you all again on Thursday and Friday. And please don't forget to give a feedback to this webinar by clicking the feedback form, which will be sent to you right after this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.